everyone, welcome back. If you're new, my name's Alicia and I'm a sous chef with a sweet tooth. And today we're going to be making some keto coconut flour crepes. But not just keto crepes, we're going to be transforming them into a keto crepe cake. So let's get started. So if any of you have been scrolling through Facebook and seeing this tasty video in your feed and have been wishing, I wish there was a keto version of this, well, you're in luck today because I created one and I made one with some hazelnut, cacao, pili nut butter. The perfect keto nut made into a butter. It's so delicious, and I made it into a filling for our crepe cake. First step, of course, is to make crepes. And that's really the hard part. The rest of it is a breeze compared to making crepes. But I will show you a step-by-step tutorial on how to exactly cook them on the flat top that'll hopefully make it easy for you. It even took a couple tries for me. I had a couple that I had to, toss, but the majority of them came out. And this was the recipe that was the easiest. I had a couple other ones that made it a little bit more difficult. I added some more stabilizers into this one. I've used this once before in my peanut butter patties. I'll link that above. I used egg white protein powder, and I feel like it just gives it a lot of stabilization to this recipe, and that's what makes them not fall apart when you flip them. Of course, you got to make sure you cook them long enough on one side, otherwise they will fall apart, which was my downfall. I'm too eager to flip and they break. So I got coconut flour in here, the egg white protein, some sugar and some salt, and a little bit of xanthan gum. And then for the base, it's just cashew milk, water, and 2 eggs. And this is super easy. You just throw it all into a blender. And then I do have a little bit of vanilla extract and a little bit of stevia drops. I wanted it a little bit sweeter. You can make these completely customizable. You can make them as sweet as you want. You can even make savory crepes and fill them with like a cream chicken filling for a dinner recipe. If you use this as a base and either add sugar, salt, you can add herbs, you can add anything you want to this to make it the flavor you want, and then you can fill it with whatever you want. I do want to mix these dry ingredients a little bit. I did add everything in at once in one of the recipes that I did, and when I went to wash my blender, I noticed there was slimy stuff, on the edges, and that's because my xanthan gum was just put right in one, half teaspoon. And as it blended, it got caught on the sides. It is always really important to mix your xanthan gum into all your dry ingredients. If you don't have a blender, you can probably get away with a food processor, but I might suggest breaking this recipe in half because there is a lot of liquid. There's 2 cups, and a lot of food processors, if you put too much liquid in, it, flies out of your food processor, and you don't want that happening. I got the wet and the dry minus some melted butter, which I'm gonna pour in after we blend this up for a minute. Might need to plug this in. And of course my cord's not long enough. I just give it a few initial pulses to get the ingredients kind of incorporated a little bit. And then I go in with a spatula and scrape down the sides to get any of the dry that has stuck. And give it another few blends. And then I got this little spout on mine. You probably have one in the middle or on the side also. So as I'm blending, I'm gonna pour in my 4 tablespoons of melted, unsalted butter. So I added salt into the dry mixture. If you have salted, don't add the salt. Give it a couple pulses. Give it another scrape down. Make sure you get all that stuff incorporated. Give it one more pulse and we should be good to go. Okay, and then we're gonna be heading over to the stove. This is the mix. It is pretty thick. You wanna let this settle for a good 20 minutes or so before you start trying to cook your crepes. Now this batter right here will probably give you around 12 to 15 crepes, depending on if any of them mess up on you. A crepe cake usually has 15 crepes in it. And I have all the macros and the recipe down below for just this whole batch of crepes and the filling. So if you do mess any up, you can probably minus some from those macros because you're not having it all in there. If you cut the crepe cake into 8 slices, it's just over 2 grams of net carbs per slice. So it's not bad, and it's really a light dessert that you can make for friends and family and they wouldn't know it's keto. I actually made a crepe cake that was gluten-free and the entire family loved it. This one is low carb and gluten-free. Now this took me a lot of trial and error on heat. Your stovetop is very different from stove to stove. I literally have mine just below the 3. That is where I found the perfect temperature to cook my crepes. They'll cook 2 minutes on one side, flip them, 30 seconds. It's gonna take a little bit of practice with your stove. I'd say start there, and if you need to adjust the heat a little bit. So I have a stick of really soft unsalted butter, so that's what I'm using to grease. You can probably use just a avocado oil spray. I just don't want a ton of oil in there. So once it's hot enough, which one of the indications I do is I put a little bit of batter and touch it, and if I hear it sizzle, it's ready to go. I have my whole station here set up that you can see. I'm gonna need somewhere to put my measuring cup after I scoop. Everyone's gonna have exactly a 1/4 cup. I have a spatula in here for when I get down to the bottom. And I have a thin spatula to flip my crepes, but using your hands is probably the best way to do it. So I'm gonna start here. I think my pan is hot enough. I'm gonna grab a 1/4 cup of the batter. I'm gonna lift my pan, pour, and swirl. You wanna try to get all these the same size. And you gotta kind of push the batter down a little bit. And get them into the corners there. You can take a little bit of extra batter, put it in the little spots that don't make it round. Very hard to do on camera. It's not the prettiest one I did. They come out, sometimes they're really smooth, sometimes they're not. But I'm literally gonna watch my clock, and it should take about 2 minutes on this side. All the bubbles should be popped. You even can wait for like a tiny bit of browning around the edges. I also take, if you have any really thick parts, like right here, I'll take and smooth those out a little bit because they'll just take longer to cook. You want to try to have an even batter. It is definitely not easy, but practice makes perfect on these.
A few minutes later.
See, it's starting to come up from the sides a little bit. It's getting a little brown over here. Okay, it's been 2 minutes. I'm gonna try flipping. I just pull it up with my hands. So we had a little bit of rippage, but that is patchable because you're gonna be putting this into a cake anyways. Literally 30 seconds on this side. You want just a tiny bit of browning. That's a little bit more than I usually have. Might pop this down a tiny bit more. Like I said, if you're not making a crepe cake, you can just make 4 of these for a breakfast, and you can just fill them with any kind of, sugar-free jam you have, cream cheese, Danish kind of filling on it. You can keep your batter for up to 2 days uncooked in your refrigerator. These crepes can last over a week in your refrigerator, just stacked on top of each other in a Ziploc, or you can freeze them for a month. Always have a plate ready to put your crepes down on. So between every one, I take a tiny bit of butter, which I still have some on here. I'm gonna do a little greasy on there and do the process over again. 1/4 cup of batter, down and around. Try to keep it flowing. It's the hardest part. If your pan's too hot, it won't flow all the way around. If it's too cold, it won't spread out fast enough. But that one was a pretty good round one. We just missed a little bit of the edge there, but not too bad. Another 2 minutes, flip, 30 seconds. There we go, no rippage on that one. These are good just by themselves. I'll insert a clip of my boyfriend just eating them right off the plate. Now this is a non-stick 8-inch skillet. So you don't want to put this metal down on there too much either. You don't want to scrape it. There you go, crepe number 2. You want to make sure you dry them flat and then you can stack them up. Another little bit of grease. Another 1/4 cup. Shake it out, shake it out. Ow. You want to try to get them all the size of the pan. That way you'll just have a prettier cake. But if you're not making a cake out of it, the edges really don't matter at all, because you can just literally fold it into thirds with your filling inside. The funny thing about this batter is, like I said, I made the gluten-free crepe cake, and I used an all-purpose gluten-free flour blend, and it was much more difficult to make those crepes. So that was one of my biggest goals with this batter, is to make it so it's not falling apart on you. And that's what the xanthan gum and the egg white protein does. Don't touch your wrist to the pan. You may burn yourself. Okay, last crepe going, and then we're gonna get on to the filling while these cool, and we're gonna assemble our crepe cake. So like I said, I'm making a hazelnut, cacao, pili nut butter crepe cake. And for those of you who are not familiar with pili nuts, it is actually described as one of the best nuts for keto, because there's 21 grams of fat in an ounce and less than a carb in an ounce. So that's why it is so great for keto. And I bought a bunch of these products. They're called Pili Hunters. I go straight to their website. It is a little pricey, but I did really want to try it because I thought it sounded delicious. I also have a turmeric butter that they made, and they also have one that is a pumpkin spice, which I haven't tried, but I gave some to a friend and she loved it. These are the nuts here. They come in all different flavors, and then they have all the different nut butters. And this one, you see, is the hazelnut raw cacao pili nut butter. And this is definitely my favorite. It is a little higher in carbs, but it's about the same as just like a regular peanut butter, and delicious, and a lot less than if you wanted to eat Nutella, which is what this is kind of, mimicking. So that's the kind of filling we were making. But literally, you can make any kind of filling you want. You can use raspberries, you can use strawberries. I usually do like a whipped cream cheese base. You can flavor that however you'd like. I just decided, because I love chocolate and hazelnut and pili nuts, and I wanted to make something with this butter because I do love it. So that is what I'm making today. I got a cup of heavy whipping cream in here. Is anyone else confused by whipping cream? Because I usually get the Great Value, which is Walmart brand, heavy whipping cream. And I put that in my carb manager. There's 1 carb for 2 tablespoons. So that's what I thought all heavy whipping cream was. But then I go and I bought Wegmans, and I look at the carbs and it says 0 on here. So I'm like, oh, well, but if I put in a cup of cream into my carb manager, sure, there will be carbs in it. And I put it in and it said 0 carbs. I'm going by what that says, and that's what's down in the macros below. But if you guys know the truth, let me know in the comments below what you think about this heavy whipping cream situation. Because I don't know. I'm told that all heavy cream has carbs in it, but my carb manager says no. So I don't know who to believe. I got my heavy whipping cream in here. You want to make sure that's always chilled before you whip it, because otherwise you'll have a hard time whipping it. And then I'm going to sift in, I have a tablespoon of raw cacao powder just to make it a little bit more chocolatey, and some Locanto powdered sugar sweetener. My Thrive box finally came in. I'm going to sift that just because the powdered sugar is really clumpy, and so is the cacao actually. And I always weigh out my ingredients, especially the powdered stuff, because I took 4 tablespoons of powdered sugar. It was nowhere near how many grams it was supposed to be. Okay, we're gonna whip that up until soft peaks, and then we're gonna add in our softened cream cheese and pili nut butter. Mine has been out for a couple hours, but it's still kind of cold, so I did pop it in the microwave, 50% power for 15 seconds, and it's nice and soft now. You just want that because if it's too cold, the cream cheese will leave little clumps in your mixture. Okay, we are at soft peaks, as you can see. We're gonna add in our cream cheese and pili nut butter. Okay, we're pretty stiff. I'm gonna give 1 scrape down and 1 more whip, and then we should be good to assemble our crepe cake. I made sure all my crepes are nice and cool. I actually stored these in the refrigerator in between 2 paper towels and just stacked them on top of each other. You can keep them in there for a week, like I said earlier, and you can literally fill these with different things every day if you want. If you make these savory, these would be a great thing to have, tuna salad in, or chicken salad, stuff like that. Or you can, oh, I want to make these savory and try to make some quesadillas out of them. That'd be good. I'm missing quesadillas and grilled cheese for sure, among all the sweet desserts I'm missing. To start here, I have a nice dish. Whatever dish you want this on, make sure it's the one you want to end on, because you are not moving this after you assemble it. Tiny bit of filling down on the plate. I picked out my favorite crepe that I'm going to be putting on top, my best looking one, because you're definitely going to see the edges of that one for sure. You can also top it, however. I might do a little sprinkle of cocoa powder on top of this guy. Make sure that's nice and flat. You want to make sure it's centered. Now I figured out about an ounce of filling per layer will give you enough filling for each layer. Now for your first couple, you might want to weigh out an ounce so you kind of know what it looks like. You're going for a really thin layer here because you're going to be stacking up these really thin pancakes. You don't want to end up having it slipping between layers. If you have too much filling, it'll slip. You want to just go out to the outer edge, and then you want to make sure it's all the way even out to the edge because you don't want it domed in the middle. It's probably going to happen either way, a tiny bit, just because you're prone to putting more in the center of things. We're just going to keep building like that. And our final crepe. This layer you can do a little bit thicker, obviously, because you're on top now. I did about 14 crepes here. Like I said, the macros below are for just one batch of crepe batter and one batch of filling. So if you don't use all of it, or if you mess up a couple crepes, change the macros. Which I don't think I'm going to need all this filling, so I can minus a little bit. Or you can just serve that on the side if somebody wants extra filling. Now, normally I'm a perfectionist when it comes to cakes, but I've seen some videos where they, trim the sides. I like it looking kind of rustic. You can tell they're crepes, and it looks really nice. The lacy edges of the crepes, that's kind of what you're looking for. I think I'm going to dust it with a tiny bit of cocoa powder. There you have it. Now, if any of your friends say they want a crepe cake for their birthday and you're keto, I think if you show up with this, they will be very pleased. And only a couple of carbs for an eighth of this. Time to slice into this and give it a try. It'll probably slice a lot better once it's chilled also, because that cream cheese will set up. Moment of truth. See that? Beautiful layers of cream and crepe. Now it's time to taste this guy. First bite of my crepe cake. You got all the layers. So pretty. It's not a super sweet dessert, so this is perfect for those people in your life that for some reason hate really sugary stuff. I don't get it. I could have a chocolate cake and eat a whole slice and be good. This is like a super light, not super sweet dessert, and it's not heavy and dense like a regular cake. The reason I made this the first time was because my boyfriend is one of those people, and he requested a crepe cake for his birthday. And his mother's gluten-free, so I made it gluten-free for them. Chocolate hazelnut's definitely delicious. So I hope you guys tackle this at home. I know it's a big feat to undertake, but if you keep practicing, you will get the hang of making crepes, and they are so versatile. It's one of those foods that you can have for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner, and dessert. So I hope you guys try this and enjoy it. If you like this video, please hit that thumbs up button, hit the subscribe down there. It'll help me out a lot. And I will hopefully see you next time. Bye guys.